morning when Pastor Andy asked me to speak on this specific topic that we're going to be talking about this morning. I thought how fitting. I am the mom of 6, and 4 of those are girls, and girls can kind of tend to talk a lot. So I thought how fitting. So we're going to start this morning with some scripture. It's going to be up on the screen if you're taking notes. But we're going to be in 1 Thessalonians 4, and we're also going to be in 1 Peter 4. We're going to start with 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, starting with verse 11 and 12. It says, "And to aspire to live quietly, and to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands as we instructed you, so that you may walk properly before outsiders, and to be dependent on no one." So then in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 15, it says, "But let none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or as a meddler." We're going to pray. Father God, we just pray right now as we've heard your word, as we sing praise to you, Lord, that you're in this room, Lord. And I pray that we hear your word in a way, Lord, that we recognize your faithfulness and what you call us to, and that we are image bearers of you, Lord, in a way that our lives reflect that. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so we're just going to hit it hard this morning. Have you ever checked someone's story, like on social media, just to see what's going on in their lives? Maybe compared your life to theirs, had an opinion about something that really wasn't any of your business? And maybe it wasn't even on social media, because I have 4 daughters. And maybe this isn't a phrase anymore, I don't know. But when Lily, she's not here to defend herself, was in high school, she would come home and she would go, "I've got some tea." And so that meant she had a story to tell that was probably none of her business or mine, but she would tell it. But we live in this world where we have front row access to everyone else's life. We are, if we're being honest, we find ourselves enjoying it sometimes just a little too much. And if we're not careful, we spend more time watching, comparing, and commenting than actually living the life that God gave us. The crazy and really sad part about that is that we're in a time when people feel more overwhelmed, distracted, dissatisfied with their own life than ever before in history. Like, as a counselor, I have people come in and they are overwhelmed with their life. They are frustrated. They feel like they don't have enough time in their day. They feel like their relationships are crumbling. They feel like they can't focus. They can't take on one more thing, and they feel like they don't know how to connect with people. I have teenagers on the weekly who cannot figure out how to have friends. And this is largely due to the fact that we are so focused on everything and everyone around us that we don't have time to recognize how we're actually ourselves in life. So in some cases, we're in positions in some people's lives that we have access to watch, and they need us in some ways as part of their support system. Meaning that we are some way hands-on in their life. Parents, siblings, friends, that kind of thing. But however, most of the people that we have access to view, most of the people that you and I have an opinion on, we view their life and develop an opinion on, have not asked for, nor do they likely want, our help or our opinion. So that tells us that the act of knowing so much about what is going on around us, and not necessarily because our life is too much, but because we are trying to carry everyone else's business, and we don't even realize it. Some of us are sitting here right now. Oh, I'm not sitting anymore, so that's for you, not me. But some of us are in this room, and you're thinking, me? I don't even have Facebook, I don't have Instagram, I don't have TikTok, or whatever your social media is. But I bet some of you have a favorite news station, or a favorite newspaper, or whatever it is, your favorite televangelist. And those things aren't necessarily bad things, but they're telling you everything that is wrong in this world. They're telling you everything that's going on, every person that's doing everything, and they're giving you this view, this front row seat to every little thing that's going on. And they're telling you the world's going to hell in a handbasket. They're telling you the day and the time that Jesus is coming back and all of the things. And it's just constant intake. And we have this version of needing to hear all this stuff, and the reality is we really need to be staying in our own lane. We need to be minding our own affairs. When I was writing this message, I kept thinking about this show that my mom used to watch when I was a kid. And there was this character who was the nosy neighbor, and I'm going to age myself and some of you sitting in this room. But her name is Mrs. Kravitz. So Mrs. Kravitz was the nosy neighbor next door. And she was always peeking through her window and looking around, and she wanted to know always what was going on with the neighbors, and she was always trying to make an opinion about what was going on, and she was always meddling and getting herself in trouble. And honestly, if we're being truthful, we are probably much more like Mrs. Kravitz than we'd like to admit. There's probably a part of us that is entertained or drawn to other people's downfall, other people's problems, because when we do that, guess what? We're not looking at our own. So, but Mrs. Kravitz was humorous. It was funny because she was always into everyone else's business. But the reality is, or maybe all of Mrs. Kravitz. But when we look at those verses in Thessalonians, not to be like Mrs. Kravitz, none of us are, right? Paul was actually given instructions. He was instructing us. He said, make it your ambition, your goal, your focus, to live a quiet life. Not a loud one, not a busy one, not a dramatic one, but a faithful one. So Paul was simply saying, stay in your lane. And we are constantly pulled into things that are not ours. And they're really none of our business. Other people's drama, other people's decisions, other people's lives. And the more time that we spend there, the less time that we spend being faithful in our own lives. I say this a lot in youth, and I hope that they hear it, and I say it to you guys today. Distraction is one of the enemy's easiest tools. Because if Satan can keep you distracted, it really destroys your life. I mean, you're of no use to God, right? When we're so distracted that we can't understand the assignment that God has for us because we're so focused on everything else. So if Satan can destroy your life, he is dang sure going to do his best to keep you distracted. Right? If he can keep you so off focus of what you're supposed to be doing and focused on everyone else and what they're supposed to be doing and all of the things that they're doing wrong and all the things that's unfair and all the things that's going on in the world, if you're focused on that and not focused on what God's talking to you about, then you're not focused on the assignments that God has got for you. And so it keeps you from being able to do the things that God has called you to do. And it destroys homes, it destroys relationships and all of those things because we've lost focus because we're worried about other things. You can be busy, informed, and involved and still be completely unfaithful to what God actually calls you to do. God didn't call you to manage everyone, but he did call you to follow him. We don't realize that we're doing this, but we actually tend to play God in relations. We at times are trying to take the role that is his, and we don't even realize it.
When we read in 1 Peter 4:15, do not suffer as a murderer or a thief or as an evildoer or as a meddler. Catch this. A meddler is in the same list as a murderer and a thief. A meddler, like a murderer, a thief, and a meddler, they're all listed together. Why? Because meddling isn't just annoying. It's not just a Mrs. Kravitz thing. It's damaging. It's damaging to those whose affairs that you're meddling in, and it's damaging to the meddler themselves. When you try to control someone, fix their life, decide what they should be doing, you're stepping into a role that was never yours to begin with. And it can usually sound spiritual. It can sound very Christian sometimes. It can sound like, I'm just trying to help. It can sound like, I'm just so concerned about so-and-so. Someone needs to say something. You know, I think a couple of weeks ago, we talked about that for brutal honesty. Sometimes it's not your place. So someone needs to say something, not necessarily. But behind that is really control, insecurity, comparison. And sometimes we are so focused on other people's lives because we don't want to deal with our own. And in some cases, when it comes to someone we love, like one of our children, maybe a sibling, a brother, a sister, or spouse, close friends, we worry about those people. And how maybe their choices or the things they're doing are going to reflect on us, or maybe even the consequences that they're going to face. When I was in my 20s, my mom got really sick, and before we knew, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And I remember the time leading up to that. My brother was just not living well. For lack. I mean, he just, they would go in months where my parents wouldn't know where he was. He was just making some life choices that no parent wants their kid to make. You know, alcohol, drugs, whatever. And my mom would call and she would talk to me, and she'd be like, so worried about my brother. And she was so focused on my brother. And then here I am, and my perfect no, but I'm like, well, didn't do drugs, didn't get drunk. Been married to the same man for a hot minute now. Over here doing what I'm supposed to do. Can you, hello? And she was so focused on my brother. But I remember one day we were talking on the phone, and she said, I'm so sorry. I've been so focused on your brother and everything that he's doing wrong that it's making me physically ill, and I realize it's not good for me. And so sometimes we are so worried about someone we love, and we want to fix whatever's going on in their life. We want to help in whatever way we can. And we have to realize that sometimes that's not our role. We can pray for them, we can be there in some ways for them, but we cannot control their behavior. And at times, this is another counseling point, your physical, spiritual, and emotional life, they're all connected. And when we don't recognize that, those worries that we have for our kids, for our parents, for our friends, for our siblings, and we're trying to control all that, they make us physically sick. So I recognize as a parent, there was a season in my life, especially our kids, like our older, oldest, and youngest. We've got one that's 34, almost 35, almost 36. Woo! 35, almost, anyway, he's in his 30s. And then we've got the 20s bunch, and then we've got the teens. And when the 20s bunch was all in their teenage years, it was sleepless nights. It was worries. It was like somebody's going to land in jail, and somebody's going to die, and all the things. I would just worry nonstop. And I've recognized now that I can't control what they choose to do. I can't stop them from making bad choices. I can love them. I can care for them. I can be honest with them. But I cannot be responsible for them. And so I cannot continue to meddle in their affairs, I have to take a step back. And so I've gone from frantic worry to hopeful worry, I guess, maybe. But when we try to run someone else's life, we stop trusting God. And here's where it gets kind of real. It's not just about staying out of other people's business. It's about trusting God enough to stay focused on our own. Can we stop looking around at everyone else's problems and shortcomings long enough to focus on our own faithfulness or lack thereof? There is this moment in John chapter 21 when Peter asks Jesus about the future of John. And Peter says to Jesus, "What about him?" And Jesus basically just says, "That's none of your business. Now follow me." And I think, how many times has Jesus said to you and me, how many times has he just shaken his head and said, "That's none of your business. Just follow me"? Because we all do this. We do this thing where we go, "Well, why do they have that? Do you know what they did? Why is their life easier? Do you know what they said? Why didn't I get that opportunity?" We want what we think is fairness, but Jesus doesn't promise this fairness, this equalness like that. He promises good. And good doesn't always look the same for everyone. And there are things and circumstances about people's lives that we may never know because it's not ours to know. It's not our business. God works personally, intentionally, and specifically. Your life is not a group project. Now, that does not mean that you're not supposed to be at life group, okay? Disclaimer right there. You are supposed to be at life group. You are supposed to live in community. It's different than a group project, okay? So, but it does mean that your calling isn't to compare, but it is to be faithful. So, what does that look like this week and moving forward for you? Instead of doing 3 things, I'm going to give you 5. So the first thing is this: check your attention. What are you giving your attention to? My husband says time is a currency. The time that we all have is a currency, and once it's spent, you never get it back. But I would say the same about our attention, because I think our attention and our time are connected. So what are you spending your attention on? Think about this week and realize that it matters. Your attention, what you're giving your attention, what you're giving your time, what you're spending it on. It's shaping your life. And it doesn't matter whether you're 99 in this room or whether you're 10 in this room, whether you're a teenager and you think it doesn't matter and you've got forever and a day. I promise you, you're shaping your life. What we give our attention to shapes our life. Whatever you focus on the most will influence how you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. And most of us don't realize how much of our mental space is filled with other people's lives, other people's drama, other people's opinions, and we wonder why we feel so distracted, we feel so anxious, we feel left behind. So do me a favor, think about your last 24 hours. How much time did you spend scrolling your phone or thinking about someone else and their opinion or their life instead of your own? Maybe it wasn't even someone that you've ever met. Maybe it was an influencer. Those are pretty big these days. But who got most of your attention for the last 24 hours? And then this week, my girls like to do a Sunday reset. So this is Sunday reset when you get home. This week, start asking yourself throughout your day, when things are happening or when things come into your mind, is this mine to carry? And if it's not, let it go. And I tell this to people in counseling appointments all the time, and this is, no one has to pay me today, okay? But but when things start to feel overwhelming to you, now sometimes you're in a position and you're like with people and you're like, I can't like audibly do this out loud because people are gonna think I'm nuts. But if you start to feel overwhelmed with certain things and you feel like you need to let it out, the minute you get by yourself, audibly let it out. So if you're in a situation and you're like, this is super overwhelming me, the minute you get in your car or in the bathroom by yourself or wherever it is, say it out loud. Lord, do not let me carry that. Help me to let it go. Lord, I know that Susie Sally's drama is not mine, and I know that I can see it and it feels like I should help in every single way, but Lord, help me to know what I should do, what I shouldn't do, and what's not mine to carry. Say it out loud. Say it out loud, okay? But think about the things that your attention is going to. Start that today. Okay, the second thing is this. We're gonna set boundaries. We're gonna set healthy boundaries, especially digitally. And honestly, I'm hesitant to use the word boundaries, so heavy on the healthy, because as a counselor, I've witnessed people really abuse the word boundaries as a weapon to cut people off and harm people, and it's not cool. So let me be clear, boundaries are not for other people, they're for you. When we say we're setting boundaries, that's not you cutting people off. If that's what you think a boundary is, you are wrong. A boundary is for you. I heard a speaker when I went to a counselor's conference a few months ago, and she talked about learning to set boundaries. And in the talk that she was given, she talked about baby steps. And so here's a baby step she gave. She said that she had a friend that wanted to go to women's conferences together, and the friend always ran late, and she didn't like to be late. And the friend was like, we should ride to the conference together. And she said, I thought maybe I should lie and say I've got to go run errands and things like that. And she's like, then I'm like, well, then I shouldn't lie because I'm a Christian. And so then finally she said, okay, realize boundary is me being honest and setting a boundary. And so she said, you know what? I would love to ride to the conference with you. However, I like to get there early and look at the bookstore. You, however, run late constantly, and it drives me crazy. So my car is pulling out of the driveway at 5:15. If you are in my car at 5:15, great, we're going together. If not, not a problem. We will see each other at the conference. I'll save you a seat. So the boundary was, I'm leaving at 5:15. If you're with me, great. If you're not a biggie. So boundaries, the boundaries are for us. They're not shutting other people out, but they are setting healthy rhythms and mindsets in your life, okay? So you can't mind your own affairs if you are constantly consuming everyone else's. If you're constantly on social media is not evil. I like social media. I post on social media. I like to watch reels, all the things. But unlimited access is dangerous. It's dangerous for teenagers. It's dangerous for adults. And please, adults, let's don't pretend that it's only the teenagers. I have seen the boomers, okay? My dad came the other day. And the volume, please, turn it down. Yeah. So, sorry guys, had to call you out. But it's not bad in and of itself, but too much of it is dangerous, unlimited. But it trains us to compare ourselves to others constantly. It changes how we form opinions on everything. How many times have we decided we're going to start a new diet or decorate our home in a new way simply because we were scrolling and all of a sudden, I've done it. Last Easter, you could have come in my house and everything that was all around my house, I got off of TikTok. Everything. All those sweatshirts I wear that say funny little sayings, TikTok, I bought it because it influences the way we think, okay? those aren't even my style, but I buy them because they influence the way I think in that moment. But the way that we recognize that the things that we are letting in our lives, the boundaries that we are setting, the things that we are letting in, that influences the things that we feel responsible for, the things that we end up carrying that we weren't meant to carry. You don't need to know everything about everyone all the time. So maybe you need to take a little break from social media this week. I don't know. Maybe you set a time limit on your apps. There is a thing on your phone, and you can tell it how much time you're on social media today. It does come up, and you can tell it, thanks, and then keep going. Maybe there's things that you're following that you shouldn't. Unfollow them. Maybe there's someone that's really dramatic on your feed, and you need to mute them for 30 days. But think about those things that you need to set the boundary for, okay? The third thing is this: tend to your own garden, your own small patch of garden. God is not asking you to fix the world, but he is asking you to be faithful in what is in front of you. Your garden. Your garden is your relationship with God, your family, your friends, your responsibility, your character. And we often ignore what is ours because we're distracted by what's not. What in your life needs attention? What's that thing that you've been avoiding? Mine is the laundry that needs folded in the chair in my room. But what is that thing? And this week, or over the next couple of weeks, start to make that shift. Maybe it's spending time with God. And that doesn't mean that you've got to go, tomorrow I'm going to spend 2 hours with God in the morning. Maybe it's as simple, I'm getting up 10 minutes earlier. Or I am putting my phone down 10 minutes earlier before I go to bed, and I'm going to take that time. Maybe it's that one thing that you've been putting off, and you're going to check that one thing off your list. Maybe there's someone that you need to show up intentionally for. But faithfulness starts small, but it grows big. When we are faithful in those small things that we're actually called to, they make big differences. And we realize that all these other distractions were keeping us from doing the actual things that we're supposed to be doing. And we're so distracted with other people's stuff that we're missing out on the stuff that's meant to not only bless others, but bless us. The fourth thing is this: practice presence. You cannot follow Jesus if your mind is always somewhere else. A quiet life is not an empty life, and I think we have bought into the fact that it is. We think that a quiet life is an empty life, but a quiet life is not an empty life, it's a focused life. The older I get, the more I love a quiet life. When Ryan and I moved, I didn't know I wanted to live in the country, and a couple of years ago we moved to the country. It might have been a bad idea. We thought I was an extrovert. I am not. I do not. I like quiet. The busy day the other day, I came home and all I wanted to do was sit outside, and it was great because it happened to be like the 2 hours that day that the wind wasn't blowing. And then all of a sudden the wind did come up blowing and like blew all of Zoe's, I don't know, braid and stuff. I don't know what it was, some kind of, it was embroidery. That's what it was. I bought that child embroidery stuff so she can embroider like this cute stuff. She put it in her hair. Yeah. But we were quietly sitting outside. But right now, most people are physically present and mentally somewhere else. When you're with people, are you actually with them? One of the things I get super sad for the kids, like teenagers, this one is for you. I was in school in the 80s, graduated in 94, and man, I'm sad for you guys. because when we were in school, it was fun. The lunches were not cool at all, but we just drowned it in ranch and called it a day. But I love when I'm on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and the reels come up and it's like high school in the 80s or high school in the 90s. It was the best. You know why? Because the only thing we could do was talk to each other. Only thing we could do is talk to each other. Connect with one another. And so when we were with people, we were actually with people. When we went to our grandma's, we were actually with our grandma. Grandma didn't have to say, hey. But when you're with people, are you actually with them? So try putting your phone down. Boomers, you too. Try putting your phone down during conversations. Have dinner or breakfast at the table as a family on the nights or the mornings when it's possible. Here's a big one. Try doing one task at a time, not multitasking. There is actually no such thing as multitasking. Your brain can't do it. And some of you are sitting going, watch me. I'm telling you right now, you can't. Like, you may get a lot of things done, but you're not multitasking. You're dropping the ball somewhere. And probably where you're dropping the ball is with the people that you say you love. So try doing one task at a time. Notice what's around you, the sounds, the people, the moments. Because presence is where peace grows. The fifth thing is this. Release what isn't yours. Some of you are carrying things that aren't yours. They are things that belong to God. Someone else's decisions, someone else's future, someone else's consequences, and it's exhausting. The truth is, you are responsible to people, but not for people. And when you feel that urge to fix, control, or worry, audibly say this: God, I know this is yours to carry and not mine. Help me to release it. And you may have to do that more than on one occasion. And you may have to do that multiple times throughout the rest of your life, especially if you have children, believe me, because they are the reason I color my hair. But it's okay. God is not a one-time fix-it man. He is here, period, for the long haul. He wants that relationship with us. He doesn't want us distracted by everything around us. He wants to sit down with us, face to face, eye to eye. He wants that with us. Satan's the one that wants us minding everybody else's business. Living a quiet life doesn't mean nothing. It means doing the right things in the right place with the right focus. Some of you guys are overwhelmed, not because life is too heavy, but because you're carrying things that just aren't yours. Other people's opinions, choices, and outcomes. So if you just